Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Master Mai, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Friday, 23rd of June 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man and background to the news and sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, what is going on with Crogga Gas? No appeal after the death of a worker. Assisted dying divides opinion. Lizzie Holden's the time trial champion, and a little over 12 hours, and it's this year's Parish Walk.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Fast to my Dave Moore.
Fast to my nurses in the Isle of Man have voted overwhelmingly in favour of taking strike action following failed pay negotiations. 80% of the turnout said they'd be willing to breach their employment contracts in a bid for better wages. A Manx construction company has been refused permission to appeal a £200,000 fine imposed after the death of one of its workers. Stuart Clegg Services Limited took its case to the High Court of Justice of the Isle of Man. The impact of cancellations at Ronaldsway Airport on the island's business community is being highlighted in the Chamber of Commerce's latest quarterly economic survey. More than 80% of respondents say the consistency and reliability of flight travel to and from the island has deteriorated in the last 12 months. Further afield, a man who smuggled a gun into a holding cell and shot dead a Met police sergeant, has been found guilty of murder. 25-year-old Louis de Zoysa was still handcuffed when he opened fire at Sergeant Matt Ratana in Croydon. The UK Chancellor and mortgage lenders have agreed there'll be a 12-month delay before repossession proceedings begin as rising interest rates push people's mortgages up. Homeowners will also be allowed to switch to better deals twice within 6 months without penalty or change to an interest-only deal. And a teenage mother's been found guilty of murdering her newborn son in Herefordshire. Paris Mayo, who's now 19, was 15 when she killed Stanley in March 2019. Those are the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goramaya, thank you, Dave, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. There is a strong wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. It will moderate later. State of sea is slight and moderate this evening. Dry, cloudy and misty across the Isle of Man. We're shrouded in mist at Douglas Head here. A moderate to fresh wind coming in from the south. Overnight minimum 15 Celsius. For Jasan, coastal mist and fog to kick off with, then sunny spells later in the day and a moderate to fresh southerly. Daylight maximum 19 down to 14 through the night. Into Jadouni, rain and coastal mist and fog on Sunday to start with, then sunny intervals later on that light to moderate westerly. Top temperature 20 Celsius. Tight on the way out, low waters at 20 to 10 tonight, sunset 5 to 10, high water 16 minutes before 4 a.m, sunrise 14 minutes to 5 in the morning, low tide 27 minutes past 10.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Plans to explore whether gas can be drilled from the seabed just off the Isle of Man's coast are on hold. Crogga, the company involved, says it returned money to investors because the Isle of Man government hasn't put in place the necessary regulations to allow it to take the next step. The firm's chief exec is Richard Hubbard.
We've been asking the government since January if we could have what we refer to as an all-parties meeting so that we could sort of sit down and have a grown-up discussion about how you would put regulations in place. But they seem extremely reluctant to do it. And so we are still waiting for our face-to-face meeting. We've actually asked two questions to the government. Do you actually still want to drill for gas? And then secondly, if you do, when will you put the regulations in place? But, you know, the licence was only reissued in 2022, so it would be quite extraordinary if they've somehow changed their mind about their intent to drill for gas. All our investors are very aware that this is a potentially extremely valuable asset for the Isle of Man. We estimate it's got a value of something like £12 billion, and more than 40% of that would be collected by the government through royalties and the VAT. So it's an extremely important asset as far as the treasury of the Isle of Man is concerned. We can't really, in all honesty, go forward with completing a fundraise and all these expensive operators and drilling rigs until we're sure we're going to get what is called a consent to drill. So as of today, we've made a press release and written to all the subscribers in the recent fundraise and said that we sort of feel that we've got no choice but to return their funds to them. If we are able to get the drilling consent in place, then we're giving the automatic guarantee to all these people that we'll reinstate their investment. But we simply felt very uncomfortable holding an investment for a well that we can't yet say when it will be drilled.
A Manx construction company has been refused permission to appeal a £200,000 fine imposed after the death of one of its workers. The story from Sean Cowper.
Stuart Clegg Services Limited took its case to the High Court of Justice of the Isle of Man. It had previously admitted to breaching the Health and Safety at Work Act by not ensuring the health, safety and well-being of its employees on or before the 4th of August 2020. On that day, the company's employee, 56-year-old Gary Skelding, was killed when the scaffolding rig he was working on at King William's College collapsed. It had been overloaded. During the Staff of Government Division hearing, SCS's advocate argued that the fine imposed in February was manifestly excessive. He argued that the sentencing Deemster Sandeep Kainth, had wrongly increased the starting point of the sentence, adding that the fine should have been around £136,000. However, Judge of Appeal Cross KC and Deemster Pratt KC said closer analysis of the facts showed the company could have been judged as being of higher culpability than initially deemed. The appeal, they said, had no reasonable prospect of success, adding that the company was fortunate it had been categorised in the way it had. Leave to appeal the judgment was refused, and SCS Limited must now pay legal costs of £1,250. You can read the full judgment at manxradio.com.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
The Matrix signs at Burrell Park at Ramsey, Bargarrow, Hilbury and Sulby to the mountain are showing fog patches. Manx cyclist Lizzie Holden was crowned this year's elite women's British national time trial champion this week. Speaking to Manx Radio, Lizzie describes how it feels.
Yeah, still, like, when you say it out loud, then it still feels a bit crazy. Like, all the girls that have had it over the years, and I've been like, wow, they're at like the top level. Like, I've always looked up to them, and now to me it feels a bit strange, but yeah, it's very special. Like, I had a plan going into it, like speaking with my coach and like other people that I've worked with over the years on time trials, and I had my own plan and I had like numbers that I wanted to stick to, but you never know how it's gonna actually go in the race or how you feel. But I was actually like on target going round, and I was just trying to keep relaxed and just keep doing what I could do. And yeah, going round, I actually had no idea like if I was up or down or whatever. I was just sticking to my own plan, and I actually only realised after like 2 minutes crossing the line when my dad came over, and I was like, did I or not? Because I had no idea. I was actually the last one to start, so I didn't have to wait too long. But yeah, it was because nobody said anything, and obviously like with the time trial helmet and everything, all the noise, like I couldn't hear anything when I was crossing the finish line. And then yeah, when they actually told me the news, I was just a bit like, whoa, really? Like, I don't know, like I guess in cycling or any sport, like winning is not always that common, so when it actually happens, it feels a bit strange. Probably my best result so far, I'd say. Like I said before, like I've always been up there or like second. I've had a lot of second and thirds over the years, and yeah, I think this is my first professional win, so yeah, it's super special.
Ahead of proposed legislation on assisted dying, the debate continues to divide opinions on Man in Line today on Manx Radio. A listener got in touch. He has motor neuron disease, which is incurable, and he asked why he couldn't make the decision to end his life and stop suffering before he deteriorates. Listen for Trevor Moore from the campaign group My Death, My Decision, and First Baroness Finlay, a crossbench member of the UK House of Lords.
Nobody wants to prolong misery, but I think across our society, and certainly with your services on the Isle of Man, people want to do all to enhance your dignity, look after you as you feel that you need, meet your needs. Thousands of people over the age of 65 are incontinent to some extent or another. It doesn't make them less of a person. Thousands of people need help with different aspects of personal care. This isn't about saying someone has a disability and that's awful. It's actually that people do want to be involved. They want to support people. They want to support activities to do research into conditions like motor neuron disease. Simply providing lethal drugs is not the answer.
Motor neuron disease and other neurodegenerative diseases would not be covered by the proposed bill. And it's interesting to see that in some jurisdictions like New South Wales and New Zealand, I think it is, certainly Tasmania, they've actually got a different time period for neurodegenerative conditions. I think it's 12 months in New South Wales. Terminal illness would obviously have to be determined by the appropriate health professionals, but this is done in so many other contexts, not least, for example, in extended special social benefits. So it's already there. It's not a difficult issue to establish.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Mothership Ben McCree departed Heysham at 13 minutes past 2 this afternoon. She's expected in Douglas in the next 10-15 minutes or so. Departing this evening at 7:45, arriving in Heysham at 11:30, and overnight departure from Heysham 2:15, back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. High-speed craft Manannan departed Douglas at 4 minutes to 3. She'll be on the link span in Liverpool roundabout now, departing this evening at 7:15 and back to Douglas at 10 tonight. Tomorrow morning's departure 7:15, Manannan heads to Liverpool, 8:45, Ben McCree to Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
It is less than 12 hours to go now, about that, until the 2023 Parish Walk takes place, with over 1,250 people signed up to take part. The man at the forefront of organising it is race director Ray Cox, who explains how excited he is.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly it comes around. Tomorrow is the big day. We've got everything organised. We've been meeting regularly since last September, so it's a long build-up, but the pressure and the amount of work we do just racks up. So these last 2 weeks are very busy for the entire committee, but tomorrow is the day, and we're really looking forward to it. The numbers have stabilised between 1,200, 1,300, so that's pretty much how the race is going to be in the future. I think the heady days of 1,950 in that post-COVID year, that was an abnormality. But we're quite pleased with the entry level. It means that our infrastructure can handle it. The amount of traffic on the road won't be chaotic as usual. And we think that we'll have everything just right. I think doing anything together, and whatever it is, in a large group, that adds a certain atmosphere. And that's the one thing. Down at the start, that's absolutely palpable. Everybody's excited. Everybody's wondering what they're going to do, talking to their fellow walkers, etc., etc. So that's one thing. It brings out the best in the Isle of Man. The community comes out, the amount of support that people are there to do. And whilst we have some 30 official feed stations, well, there are many, many unofficial ones. We'll have the shower out at the top of the slough. There's going to be barbecues, there's going to be music, there's going to be entertainment and support coming from the local communities dotted all around the route. And I think when you see that gives the walkers heart, that gives them encouragement, and that gets them to the finish line, where the emotion is just extraordinary.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, Siemens Energy withdrew its profit forecast today after warning it may need to spend more than €1 billion to fix technical problems at its wind turbine business. The German firm said a technical review of substantial increase in failure rates of wind turbine components had exposed more significant problems than initially thought. Now it expects to incur significantly higher costs, likely in excess of €1 billion as a result, and problems with rotor blades and bearings understood to be the main issues. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Two of the Isle of Man's long-standing law firms have joined forces. Corlett Bolton and Carouche Law's merger will result in a network of advocate offices across the Isle of Man, providing better access to legal services for clients outside Douglas. Corlett Bolton's been operating in the island since 1992, providing a range of legal services from offices in Peel, Port St Mary and Douglas. Carouche Law, formed in 2012 by Paul Carouche, is based in Ramsey. Corlett Bolton specialise in conveyancing, wills and probate, personal injury and employment law. Carouche Law specialises in private client property and business law matters. The merger will probably allow Paul Carouche time to continue as an advocate and freeing time to focus on the growth of Finodry, his craft distillery business.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stock markets down after 4 sessions of declines. The dollar was higher, oil dropped and gold rebounded, helped by a retreat in US Treasury yields and safe haven buying. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down 0.5% at 7,461. The DAX in Frankfurt down just over a percentage point at 15,821. Currently New York City, the Dow Jones Industrials down 0.5% at 33,755. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 1.1% at 13,469. And in Chicago, the S&P 500 down 0.75% at 4,348. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 27.1 cents, €1 16.7 cents, and 23 South African rand 84 cents. In commodities, gold's up 0.5% at $1,922 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.5% at $73.82.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Here's the relevant information. If you're sailing, if you're kayaking, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sea swimming, diving or surfing this weekend, sea temperature is 13 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, Saturday, the wind is southerly, force 5 or 6, decreasing 4 or 5 overnight. Wave height 1 to 1.5 metres, wave period 4.5 seconds. High tides 4:30 p.m. On Sunday, the wind is southerly, force 4 or 5, increasing 5 or 6. Wave height 0.8 to 1.2 metres, wave period 4 to 5 seconds, and high tide 5:30 p.m.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com. Update. Brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
Homeowners face further mortgage misery after the Bank of England's decision to raise interest rates by another 0.5% to 5%. It takes them to their highest level for a quarter of a century. A Manx mortgage broker from Financial Options, here's Paul Chase.
There are a couple of things that people can do. It depends on their bank and how flexible they are. They could certainly look to extend the term of a mortgage. Obviously, the downside of that is that you're paying it back over a longer period, and therefore you're paying more interest ultimately. But to extend the term, that means bringing down the monthly payments. Some lenders will allow a switch to interest only, but that doesn't really solve the problem. It basically means no repayment of capital. And as such, it kind of builds the problem for the future, but it can temporarily relieve some stress if people are in particularly difficult financial situations. And some lenders will also offer payment holidays, which basically means that, if they are in a bit of a financial crisis, at least they can get some time to plan their way out out of it. Other people, if they have the savings available, could potentially make a lump sum payment into the mortgage to reduce the balance, and that in itself will bring down monthly payments. It's a difficult one. For the first few months of this year, the tracker rate seemed to be the better option, simply because the rates were expected to be coming down towards the end of the year. Obviously, we're now partway through the year. Expectations are that the base rate may reach as high as 6% by the end of the year. And if that's the case, then the tracker rates certainly may not be a good option for everybody, but they do provide flexibility. The 2-year fixed rates are priced accordingly at the moment, and they are expensive. 5-year fixed options are lower, but then you're tying yourself in for a 5-year period at a higher interest rate. And if rates do come down, then people will be asking why they're at that tied in that level for such a long period.
Manx Radio Sport.
So Ben McCree's just arriving, and so is our sports editor Rob Pritchard. Fast am I, Rob?
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting with golf, and the defending men's and women's Isle of Man Golf Championships title holders are among those who progressed to this evening's semi-finals of the 2023 competition. The last 8 ties for both were held at Ramsey Golf Club last night. In the men's contest, current champion Robert Noon defeated 8-time winner Julian Sutton by a score of 6-5. Elsewhere, another previous champion in Peter Glover made it through, whilst Castletown's Gerald Bradley and Brian Duggan of King Edward Bay also progressed. In the women's class, defending champion Kaylee Dawson was pushed all the way by Island Games teammate Linda Simpson in the quarter-final, with Dawson snatching the win on the last hole. Dawson will face Emma Noon in the next stage, as Noon managed to overcome Rowanese Diane Neal. In the other 2 ladies' fixtures, Tilly Davies was able to edge out fellow Ramsey member Joy Morris, while Shirley Price beat Lindsay Takal of Douglas in a repeat of the 2018 final. The semi-finals for both competitions are taking place right now and got underway in the last hour. In football, FC Isle of Man have confirmed their remaining pre-season fixtures will see them face the top 2 Manx sides from last season. The Ravens have announced they'll take on the 2022-23 FA Cup and Railway Cup winners, Corinthians, on the 22nd of July, before a meeting with men's Premier League champions Peel 3 days later. Both fixtures will be played at Castletown FC, with kick-off times and ticket details to be confirmed. Those 2 games form part of a 4-match pre-season schedule for FC Isle of Man, which will see them face 2 National League North sides beforehand. They'll host Brackley Town at the Bowl on Saturday, the 15th of July at 6:30pm, before welcoming Southport to the same venue the following Friday at 7:30pm. And in cycling, a 5-strong lineup will represent Cycling Club Isle of Man, which is returning to competitive action today. The Manx squad will take part in the Bikestow 3-day event, with 4 stages to the contest starting tonight in Shropshire. Niall Quiggin, Corin Leeming, Mark Hosthouse, Jamie Fletcher and Michael Fade make up the Ireland team.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 6 o'clock EasyJet from Bristol is delayed until 10 to 7 tonight. Next inbound, 10 to 8 tonight. Loganair from London City delayed until 10 to 9. Then it's the 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool on time. And the 8:30 EasyJet from Gatwick currently showing on time. We keep our fingers crossed. Outbound, the 6 o'clock EasyJet to Manchester is on time. The 5:30, by the way, EasyJet to Liverpool delayed until 6:30. Then at the 6 o'clock patient transfer, Loganair to Liverpool on time. The 6:30 EasyJet to Bristol delayed till 7:20. The EasyJet to Gatwick, 9 o'clock, is currently showing on time. On the roads, remember those fog patches on the mountain showing at Barrule, on the matrix signs, Hilbury, Bagarrow and Ramsey. Temporary 24-hour lights on the TT course at Kirkmichael, south of Kirkmichael, for that substation work. In Peel East, quays closed between the House of Manannan and the road bridge for work on the roads and pavements. Temporary lights on the TT course at Glen Helen still for that tree felling exercise. And lights too on Cumberland Road in Ramsey for resurfacing. Ballacollister Road in Laxey is closed between Croyty Quill Road and the Rensall Hill for resurfacing. Ballymena Road, Jervey still got face closures, that water main replacement work. And in Douglas, lights too on Ballacameen Road for resurfacing.
HNHmotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
Details of why an electric tram, a Manx electric tram, derailed have been made public almost 2 years after it actually happened. That story from Tessa Hawley.
Tramcar number 16 crashed between Dreamscary Farm and Luaig at 6:40pm on the 16th of July 2021. All all four wheels left the carriageway, leaving the tram lodged in a hedge. One passenger who was sitting on the driver's bench was ejected from the tram and sustained a broken leg and bruising. The other passengers, driver and conductor, were unharmed. An investigation report was completed in August 2021 but has only been released into the public domain now after an appeal against a Freedom of Information decision to block its release. The report shows the root cause of the crash to be a tyre that had worn below the acceptable limit. This had led to hardening of the steel and a lack of ductility. On the day in question, the driver reported that the brake action had become rough when he'd applied the brakes at the start of the descent. There was then no brake and a bumpy ride until crashing. The experienced motorman had more than 40 years' experience. He was tested for alcohol and verified as clear by a police officer. Instead, the inspector found that all tyres on the tram were worn well below any recognised limit, and there was a clear, brittle fracture in the leading axle left-hand tyre. None of the tyres or axles had been inspected prior to operation on the day. 6 recommendations were made, one of which was advised should be started with immediate effect. And in March this year, the DOI confirmed it had paid an £18,000 court fine after being prosecuted for 2 health and safety failings between the 12th of April 2017 and the 17th of July 2021. You can find the full report into the investigation at manxradio.com.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore, producer Rhiann Evans. After the news at 6 o'clock, Rob Pritchard is back with Friday Sport till 6:30. The greatest hits with Chris Kinley. Howie Kane, Sweet and Swing Jazz at 9, and Rhiann Evans with After Hours, The Late Show on Manx Radio. I'm Andy Wint, wishing you a terrific weekend, and I'll be back Monday at 5:30.
WIN